It's Mouthy Motivational Monday. And for this one, I would say you're kind of in for a treat because it's going to end up being a two-part thing. You're going to get the video today. I'm recording this on a Monday afternoon. So you're going to get this video today, and you're going to get a follow-up second part either tomorrow or Wednesday. The reason being is because I had the obligation of the Mouthy Motivational Monday, but I also have a video that I've been working on based on a subject matter that I found two, well, 3, 4 years ago, something along those lines. And the subject matter seems to fit in with the topic of today, which is self-worth. I think everybody, no matter who they are, at some point or other struggles with self-worth. And I think that it's entirely circumstantial and environmental. And by that I mean it depends really on the people that you surround yourself with, because the way that people come into your life and the way that they interact with you is going to ultimately shape, on some level, your own perception of yourself. And up until about the age of 18, I probably would have said that I was the comic relief for the friends that I had. People would gravitate toward me when they were at very low points. And, I never really thought too much about it because it's always seemed like second nature to me to make other people, laugh and kind of make them feel good. Um, because for me, being in their presence, even though they were going through something, being in their presence, just being around people, made me feel good. Within the last few days, I read some stuff on social media that entertainers that I follow and comedians that I follow were talking about an individual named Brody Stevens who unfortunately passed away. There's strong speculation that he took his own life. And I think what turned the tides for me when I was in high school, from being everybody's comic relief to kind of approaching life in a more serious manner and more in a manner of watching out for myself, maybe not completely but more so than previously, was when I had heard a statement. I don't recall who said it, but they said that comedians often are the most depressed people in the world. And I think that is extremely true, based on the comedians that I have looked up to over the years that have taken their own life. Robin Williams is the most prominent that I can think of. But comedians that I follow have been talking about Brody Stevens, and these comedians that I follow are very influential to me. So it makes me wonder, is comedy something that is purely for the laughs on both sides, or are comedians legitimately depressed and trying to bring themselves up by finding their value in making others laugh? I have to wonder that because when I was the comic relief for a lot of my friends, things were great. They were always hanging around me, we were always laughing. But when I started to want to have more serious conversations, more intellectual interactions, the friends that were around me that we would, laugh and carry on, they got distant. They got mad at me. And, a couple of them would come up to me and say, why have you all of a sudden become so detached and bitter? And it's like, I wasn't bitter. I just was seeing the world differently. And it may have been after the point that I heard whoever said it say that comedians were the most depressed people on the planet. So I guess, in a sense, I've always kind of wondered about self-worth, my own, the worth that my friends see in themselves, the worth that they see in me. And it's extremely, I think it's multifaceted. I think there are many dimensions to this whole concept. For today's quote, I was actually talking to a friend who I recently have met on Discord. Anybody who is a social media influencer or content creator, what have you, whatever you want to refer to yourself as, most people know about Discord, especially if you're in the gaming community. We were talking about depression, anxiety, and a myriad of other things that go along with it. And we started talking about self-worth. And we started talking in the context of how we see ourselves based on the interactions we have with others. Now, I say that because I ended up having a discussion with a family member about relationships and a relationship they were questioning. For me, I have said on any given occasion that I have never really had a legitimate relationship to speak of. So for my friends to come to me for relationship advice has always just baffled me. It's like, I have no experience with this. Why are you coming to me? But it's been a thing since I was probably in early high school, and there, unfortunately, more often than not, my friends that have come to me for that advice, they're not coming to me for advice. They're coming to me to bitch and complain because they don't know how to, put their big kid pants on and deal with life. They just want to bitch and complain and not make a change. And that's where, toxic friendships, toxic relationships come into play. Now, the family member that I was having the discussion with, it was an extremely effective discussion, and it ended up being very beneficial to them, I think. Uh, but the one thing that made me laugh after this discussion was my first thought after we were done speaking was, wow, okay, I feel like the gay best friend. And for anybody that knows me, they know that no, I'm not, you know, making any slight at the gay community. But I think that any female who has relationship issues typically has a gay best friend that they talk to. So it was just kind of the first thing that popped into my head. Wow, you know, I feel like the gay best friend, which I'm the farthest thing from it. Um, but it struck me funny that that was the first thought that popped into my head. But then it made me wonder about, you know, people who have come to me to just unload whatever is on their mind, and when I give them feedback, they don't take that feedback and use it. They just blow it off. And I actually have a friend who I've known for years, and they have told me they come to me for advice, but more often than not, they don't take that advice. And I had to question them. I'm like, then why do you come to me? And they really couldn't give me a straight answer. Now, the most recent relationship that they got out of was kind of that whole concept of the straw that broke the camel's back. The person that they were in the relationship with was very insecure and was, you know, for lack of a better term, unstable. Because as soon as my friend told them, you know, this is it, we're done, this individual started reaching out to myself and other acquaintances of my friend and just completely going wild trying to get people on his side and trying to get my friend back, and it just wasn't working. So I reached my breaking point at that time, and I messaged my friend. I'm like, you know what, I'm done being your sounding board, I'm done being your fight friend, I'm just done. I'm like, you need to start dealing with your own stuff on your own. And I explained to my friend that their, you know, recent breakup had contacted me trying to get me to talk to them, my friend. And my friend at the time didn't respond to me, but called me a few days later and said that they completely went off on this former relationship partner. And, you know, I was happy that, you know, they listened to me finally, although too little too late, I would say. But, you know, I reinforced when they spoke to me, I'm like, I'm done being your fight friend. I'm done being your sounding board. I can't do it anymore because it's not healthy for me. And I began to wonder what I was worth to that friend. And when you have to question what you're worth to somebody, it's it starts a dangerous trend if you're not careful. And I just felt like, you know, I was done dealing with other people's issues. Now, unfortunately, this particular friend, uh, being that they're back in a familiar relationship, we don't talk as often now. And I have to question whether it's because they're just busy, or if they have it in the back of their mind that, I said, I don't want to hear from you if you're just going to, unload your problems onto me and not listen to any feedback. And if that's the case, and that just proves why they were calling me in the first place, it proves to me that they weren't calling me genuinely to want to, touch base and see how everything was going and have a genuine connection. They just needed a sounding board. When I was talking to the new friend on Discord, we got to talking, and they asked me, they're like, you do realize that, you are worth something. I'm like, I do realize that I'm worth something, but finding the things that show me my self-worth is the trick right now. And I actually, I expressed to them that I really was confused as to why I was able to give such good relationship advice to others, but I haven't had a legitimate relationship to speak of. So it's one of those weird things where I don't know the answers. I don't know if there are answers, if it's just something I'm overthinking. But I don't have all the answers when it comes to where your self-worth lies, because ultimately I think that your self-worth is going to develop based on the activities that you partake in, the interactions that you have with other people, and the things that interest you. And one of the other things, when I found this particular quote, it reminded me of a friend of mine who, or actually should I say former friend of mine, who up and just took themselves out of my life because of a disagreement. It was toward the beginning of the election back in 2016, and we had a difference in opinion based on some political matters, and because they very ignorantly posted something on the comment thread of one of the posts on my wall, I called them out on it, and they lashed out at me and said, it's kind of ridiculous that you only like people when they agree with you, which is absolutely not the case. But for the people that are going to disagree with me in a way that is extremely hostile and not productive, yeah, I'm going to call you out on it. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't wish that this person was back in my life. But then I have to wonder, do I want this person back in my life based on why they left? And I think the easy answer is no, because it's just going to end up being a cycle. The quote that I found is by C.S. Lewis, and anybody who reads or watches movies probably knows C.S. Lewis in the context of the Chronicles of Narnia. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen the movies, I haven't read the books, so I don't know a great deal about that series. But I remember hearing about C.S. Lewis all throughout school. I don't know a great deal about him, um, but the quote that I found by C.S. Lewis states, "Don't let your happiness depend on something you may lose." In my situation, I think this is telling me not to put my faith in the people in my life, because at any given time, for any given reason, whether it's known to me or not, they could up and leave for whatever reason, and it would be completely out of my control. I think people have to kind of just get on board with the idea that when we pass away, we're not going to be able to take our friends with us. We're not going to be able to take anybody with us. So you just have to practice self preservation first and be there for the friends that show that they will be there for you. Because ultimately, that is what's going to breed healthy relationships. You know, any sort of relationship, platonic or romantic, is going to be a give and take. If one side is not willing to give, then that is going to end up being one hell of a toxic relationship. And it's not going to be healthy for either of you. Um, but the person who is the toxic variable won't realize that until it's too late. Uh, Now, the reason I said that this was going to be a two-part video is because the content that I was previously working on before finding this quote is something I came across a couple of years ago, and it talks about the types of people that you surround yourself with, and it separates them into three different categories. And it's really made me start evaluating where certain people fit in my life, and it's helped me realize how long those people are going to be in my life, so that if they up and leave, it's not as much of a shock to me. So I hope that you will come back and see part two when it goes up on Wednesday. But I do hope that, even though this was a bit of a ramble, that it does make you think about the people in your life and not basing your self-worth on your interactions with them, because everyone is going through their own stuff, and if somebody is trying to just unload all of their dirty laundry onto you without being willing to clean it up, then you really need to distance yourself from that person for your own good and for theirs. Because the more people are made to fend for themselves, the stronger they will end up being. So just keep that in mind in your interactions with the people closest to you. Make sure you're aware of human behavior in general. I will see you guys soon. Bye.